Yeah. What? I mean, we don't need them here, but I'd sure like them to be. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're calling the Rules Committee meeting to order. And the first order of business is approval of minutes of the October 24th, 2022 and the November 10th, 2022 minutes. Phil is first. Jimmy, a second. Okay. Any questions or comments or changes? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? Okay. We have the resolution adoption of the 2023-2024 Peoria County Board Rules of Order. Can I get a motion on the floor, please? Jimmy, second. Steve, okay.
All right, Madam Chair, I'll walk through edits for the committee members and any other board members that are listening in. So this is, as a reminder, this is a practice that the board has to go through every 2 years when it reinvents itself after an election. So there are always some minor changes that are to be made. The first recommended change starts on page 4, Article 1 Meetings, Section 6, which is attendance. We're adding the phrase regular or special under subsection A. So it reads, physical attendance by board members is required for participation in any meeting of the board, regular or special. Next is in Article 3, section, which is officers of the board, Section 1, chairperson, subsection B, duties 1. About the fifth line there, the phrase a chairperson is actually there twice, so it is just a Scrivener's cleanup. Next would be still in Article 3, Section 4, which talks about which version of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, the board uses. The most current edition is the 12th edition, so we're amending, changing that from the 11th edition to the 12th edition. Madam Chair, feel free to stop me at any point, I guess, for questions, or I can run through them all, whatever's the committee's pleasure. All right. Next, the next set of changes would be in Article 5 procedure that are found on page 8. The first would be in Section 5. We are cleaning up that language so that it reads a little bit more clearly. If adopted, it will read, no motion shall be debated or put to vote without having first been seconded. Once the motion is seconded, the motion shall be stated by the presiding officer before debate. Any such motion shall be reduced to writing if required by the presiding officer or any 6 members of the board. Any member may request that the clerk or the presiding officer restate a pending motion. Next would be in section 11 of the same article. Here, this is a section that talks about how debate on an item might be limited. The current language specifically talks about within the section, no member shall speak twice on the same question so long as any member who has not spoken on that question desires the floor. A member who has spoken twice on the particular question has exhausted his or her right to debate that question, and we're inserting language that after that says unless extended by the presiding officer. So it gives the presiding officer the ability to extend debate if so desired. Next would be a new section 15, and then all the sections after that get renumbered to be consecutive. The new section 15 reads, a board member who, by the nature of his or her duties, has the authority to participate personally and substantially in the decision to award a contract, may not impart or request material information or make a material argument regarding potential action concerning an active procurement matter, including but not limited to an application, a contract, or a project. If any such communication occurs, or if any such communication is received by a board member, that communication shall be reported to the state's attorney and county administrator. Any and all contracts procured and entered into in violation hereof shall be deemed null and void. So that's a new section.
Go ahead, Steve. Steve.
I mean, it's a new section 15, but it was pretty much the previous section 23. We just
Yes, that's
repositioned
correct.
it, right?
We're
We're not creating new language, we're repositioning the language?
correct. So the language was cleaned up a little bit, and it was moved from 23 to 15. That is correct, Mr. Ricker.
I just want to make sure that the board, or the Rules Committee at minimum, the board understands that we didn't craft a new item. This item's always been there. We just cleaned up the language and we put it in a different spot in the order.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct. And then those sections leading up to the old section 23 get renumbered to be consistent. And as you can see on page 11, section 23, as Member Ricker just pointed out, is deleted in its entirety. The next change is going to be near the bottom of page 14, and this is within Article 6, which is standing committees of the board. And we are in section 2A, which is the executive committee, and specifically subsection 1B. Here we're adding some responsibilities to the executive committee. So Roman numeral IV is diversity, equity, inclusion, including EEO and affirmative action. We remove Metro Peoria committee. And then under general duties, there is a reference under 2 lowercase c III to Metro Peoria committee. That is also deleted. And then there is a new K section at the end of the executive committee that says, in accordance with the guidelines published by the United States Department of Treasury, as may be amended, it shall oversee the intended uses and all expenditures of the county's fiscal recovery funds allocation received through the American Rescue Plan Act. In layman's terms, this means that the committee is going to oversee the allocation of ARPA dollars. Next would be the Finance Committee, which is Section B. There in 1AI, there's just a punctuation change, so we're adding a comma after the word adopt in the second line. IV is deleted. That's a reference to Headington Oaks, since we no longer own Headington Oaks. That is specifically talked about the disposal and the recovery of assets, so that is deleted, and then the subsequent subsections get renumbered accordingly. Under general duties, there was a reference to the Budget Subcommittee, which is a prior name of the Finance, Audit, and Legislative Affairs Committee. We now have that correctly identified at the bottom of page 16. Section C, Public Safety and Justice Committee, we add PCAPs to the jurisdictions. Next, we'd go to page 18 in County Operations Committee. Here we would, since we moved PCAPs under Public Safety, it's deleted here. That also includes all matters related to animal control and protection. And then everything related to EEO and affirmative action gets deleted because the proposed rules move that to Executive Committee. Next would be on page 19, and this is in the Infrastructure Committee. In the last 2 years, the Peoria Urbanized Area Transportation System, which is not even accurate in and of itself, has ceased to exist. It's now part of Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. Prior board amended our longstanding intergovernmental agreement with the two bodies to effectuate that action by them. So here we're just cleaning that up to make sure we're referencing the correct organization. Under I, redistricting committee, we're adding language in subsection 1E. That subsection 1E reads in its entirety, the redistricting plan shall be prepared and recommended by the redistricting committee prior to the regular December board meeting in years ending in 1 and after the decennial census, unless required earlier by state statute. If everyone recalls, based on the lateness of the 2020 census, the General Assembly passed a bill, and the governor signed into law that changed the census deadline. This accounts for that. Next would be Section 3, which are the advisory committees of the board. In C, it is the Advisory Committee on Diversity. Here, since we've moved EEO and affirmative action duties from county operations to Executive Committee, we make that change here in the last line of that section. Section D, Metro Peoria, is deleted in its entirety. And then the rest of the committees are renumbered to reflect that. And then last is F, which is the Advisory Committee for Entrepreneurship and Small Business Development. We make some changes in terms of the focus points of that advisory committee, making an addition to number 3, which is development and maintain a Peoria County toolkit of resource availability to assist in small business development. And then the last sentence, the committee will make recommendations to the executive committee to stabilize or improve existing real estate, is deleted. So based on the feedback that, Madam Chair, you gave me from yourself and other committee members and board members, those are the changes that have been prepared.
Okay, are there any questions? So I just want to say this committee has really worked hard on this. Steve and I had, I think, a 2-hour conversation to talk about changes and such. Linda, the same thing. Jimmy. So Phil as well. Phil called me today and we talked for quite a while. So it was a good discussion. So Phil, you got a question?
Yeah, I do. On redistricting, the criteria consists of 3 items, and we have not numbered the 3rd item. They're on page 19 under I. The 3 criteria are, of course, the substantially equal in population of each one of the districts, then the contiguous territory. You cannot separate the district with another district, and nearly compact as practicable. That means get it as small as you can and not gerrymander like things are done throughout our state as well as the national government, and practically, all of the states do that. But I think there should be number 3 in front of compact in our rules. It would be IB.
Yeah, are you okay? I mean, do we have to make an amendment then, or?
Yeah, I see it as a Scribner's thing. We can just add that administratively.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. Any other comments?
They're separate.
No? Okay, then, all those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any nays? Okay, that passes unanimously. We are on to public comment.
I had one more thing.
Okay.
I took the thing that
Mike, can you turn your mic on, Phil, please?
when Linda Daly talked about 2-year and 4-year terms, there was a question about this, and I thought, well, maybe we should put that in the rules. But I did get an article, a response to this today, and The response is basically it's part of the county code as by way of state statute. And we have to do it by a certain date. I think it's September the 1st. Am I correct, Scott?
That's correct, Mr. Salter.
Okay, so I just want all of the board members to know that we don't have to have that in the rules, although some people thought we might have to have it in the rules. And one, of course, was myself and others that I'd spoken to, but this is by state statute.
Okay, well, thank you, Phil, appreciate it. So do we have any public comment? Miscellaneous? Okay, we're adjourned, thank you.
Man, I got enough papers here.
Shredder